Today is Tuesday, October 18th, 2011, and Joe Turner and myself, Judy Meyer, are talking to Lila Jarvis, who used to be a resident and shop owner in Bridgeton, specifically in Carrollton. Is that right?
Yes. My mother and I had the beauty shop there.
Well, we are fascinated about this. I don't know that we've talked to too many shop owners so far in our interviews, so I'd like to just find out a little more background information. Can you tell us, first of all, where you were born?
I was born in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay. Do you mind telling us when?
August the 5th, 1931.
All right. What brought you then to, or I should say, how long did you live in Nebraska?
Very, very, very short. Actually, we didn't live there when I was born there. My mother was visiting her family in Nebraska. And we came back to Missouri where my father and mother were living. And lived in several places in Missouri until we moved to St. Louis. Lived there most of my life. From third grade on, I lived in St. Louis, Missouri.
When you were growing up, third grade, and where'd you go to school?
St. Louis Cathedral Grade School. And then I went to Ursuline Academy High School out in Sappington, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't go to college. I went to beauty college
You did?
downtown.
Where was beauty college?
It was downtown, Moeller Beauty College in downtown St. Louis, right across from Styx. And that was back, let's see, I graduated from high school in 49, so that would have been about 1950 that I was there.
How long did it take you to go through beauty college?
In those days, 9 months. I don't know what it takes today.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember what all you had to study and everything?
A lot of things that I thought were really silly. We had to learn all the veins, muscles, arteries of the hands, feet, face, which today I could probably name one of all of them. And of course, we had to learn many things with the hair that were kind of outdated. Marcelling we had to learn, never did it again. The real old-fashioned hairstyle permanents where they had the big thing that they put all the heaters on your head. And that went out about the time I started. Then it went to the machineless, and then of course the cold wave, which came very quickly after I became a hairdresser. But Mother had done all the others. She did a lot.
So she was a hairdresser.
Yes.
So you were kind of following in her footsteps.
Yes.
Where did she work?
She worked on Euclid. Near Euclid in Maryland for many years while we were growing up. And then moved out to De Bolivar. She and her partner had a beauty shop in De Bolivar when I was going to high school. And then we opened the beauty shop in Carrollton.
Now tell us a little bit, how did that come about? The beauty shop in Carrollton, how did that happen?
I lived in Florissant at the time.
Were you married then?
Yes, I was married and had both my children. They were very little. My son was about 3, I guess, when we moved to Carrollton. And Mother's partner and she were dissolving. Her partner was retiring. De Bolivar had gotten not so good a neighborhood, and Mother wanted to leave, and I wanted to go back to work to make extra money to send my children to private schools. So that's when we started looking around and found that Carrollton was going to have a shopping center, and talked to the people about it. And that's when we were accepted as a tenant. And
what was there? Was this when the shopping center was first?
nothing was there.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. Yeah, we had all of the shops were lined up, and then we had the ground breaking. And I think Mrs. Telsher still has a picture of that. I had one, and I looked for it and I don't know where it was. And I saw it about a year ago, but I have so many things around this place, it's hard to keep track of all of them.
Can you tell us what other shops or businesses went in when you first opened up?
Carrollton IGA was a food liner. There was the gift shop that, oh goodness, I can't even remember the name of
That's okay.
a couple there that had that. He was quite a character. He was quite nice and interesting. There was the drugstore, of course, Telsher Hardware, and the pharmacy was up there. He didn't stay real long. A toy store opened there. Unfortunately, they didn't stay real long.
What year was this when
1960. I'm pretty sure it was.
No, and you said you were living in Florissant.
Yeah, I moved to Bridgeton to live near the beauty shop, and I moved there in 1960, and that's when we opened the shop.
I see.
I lived in Florissant for, I don't know, 8 years, maybe something like that.
But it's nice to have a short commute, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, where did you live in Carrollton, is it?
No, I moved into Brittany Circle in the apartments and bought one of the duplexes there.
And Brittany Circle is what, off Natural Bridge?
Yes, yes.
So
yes.
you had, what, a couple of miles?
No, I didn't have even that far. Brittany Circle, Bonfils, you know where Bonfils comes in, and if you turn left, Brittany Circle would have been the first street on your right.
Oh.
That was the apartments and,
Oh, okay.
and the duplexes. There was a row of duplexes, the rest was apartment buildings.
Oh, I see.
And that's where we lived for 3 years. Then I moved on Phelps. And I
Okay.
lived there 30-something years.
And you said you had 2 children.
Yes, a girl and a boy, Catherine and Kenneth.
Where did they go to school then?
Catherine went to Sacred Heart Academy in St. Charles. Kenneth went to, oh my goodness, the boys' school off of, what area was that, Rich?
Was it
Not Normandy, just the
It was
south.
just off Natural Bridge. wasn't it?
Cool
I mean,
Valley.
just,
Cool Valley. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Mount Providence.
Okay, thank
And
you.
that was a boys' school.
Thank you.
And
What kind of work did your husband do?
He was a computer man.
And who did he work for?
He worked for Brown Group and was with them 21 years.
In Clayton there?
Yeah.
Okay.
We
When
just
computers
interviewed
were
another person who was
bigger
in
than refrigerators. I'm sorry?
you mentioned the Brown Shoe Company. We
Yeah.
just talked to Gene Kuhlman, who is from Bridgeton and who worked for Brown. Were you
Quite a
acquainted
few
with
of
him?
them did. One of the shoe designers lived in Carrollton and then moved. Rich Leaker, I don't know if you've talked to them. He lives off of McKelvey now in a little area just past Old St. Charles Rock Road and lives in Florida in the winter time. And he was a designer for Brown Shoe. He and George played a lot of golf together. They played on the golf team for Brown. And
How big was your beauty shop that you bought there in the Carrollton Shopping Center?
we had 4 stations and 6 dryers, so it was medium size.
And
Not-
who worked there? Like how much staff or how many people were employed there?
We had my mother, myself, and my sister-in-law came to work there for a while, and then they moved out of town. And then we had a lady that lived on Bonfiles. I don't remember her name. She started out as an apprentice, decided she wanted to make it quicker, so she quit and went to school, and then we hired a couple of other. We never had more than 4 there,
What kind of hours did your beauty shop have? Monday through Friday, or
Monday through, we closed originally on Monday. It was Tuesday through Saturday. Several evenings, we were open late Thursday, Friday, and on holidays, things like that. Saturday was a very, very busy day. And I remember New Year's Eve working my head off on Saturday and then trying to get ready and to go out and enjoy New Year's Eve. We did very elaborate hair days in those days, you know, all the high teasing and ran ribbons through the hair and put jewels in it and sparkles, and took forever to do them. Oh, it was quite a thing. But
Were your customers mostly from the Bridgeton area, or were there visiting?
Most of them actually were. We had quite a few that still came out from the city that had been Mother's customers in the city for quite a long length of time. She waited on a very exclusive, rich clientele in the city, and a lot of them just had their chauffeurs bring them out to their shop. She worked on August Bush's daughter and went to the home to do the mother. She never came to a shop. That was beneath her.
what was your mother's name?
May, M-A-E. She spelled it Jadwin, Jadwin.
I see.
Yeah.
And how long did you and your mother own and work at, what was the beauty shop's name?
Coiffure Creations. And I think Ken said that he gave you some matches from there. If not, I think I still have a couple of the books of matches from there. And but we owned the shop until my husband died in '74, and then my mother got ill and had cancer, and things got a little bit hectic for me to handle. So we sold it, I think, in about 76, 77. But then I worked there, and Mother did too, for several years for the owner.
Do you remember her name?
Her last name was Pope.
Was her name Linda?
No. Then she sold it to a man, actually. And that didn't go very well, and then I think he sold it to somebody else fairly quick.
Did the business keep the same name throughout the different ownerships?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were you right next to Telsher Hardware?
No, we were next to the barber shop, and on the other side of us was originated the gift shop that I mentioned. And we were probably the barber shop, and then the Holy Cow, which was the ice cream parlor originally there, and then Telsher's. So there were two in between us. The Holy Cow originally was the toy shop, and then actually the people that built the shopping center owned the Holy Cow, and it was quite a cute place. They didn't keep it too many years, and we were kind of disappointed when they didn't, but because it was real cute. It was painted cute. And
Did that turn into the Velvet Freeze then?
Yeah.
Did your own daughter follow in your footsteps?
No. My daughter is superintendent of a special ed school district in Valparaiso, Indiana. And no, I told her over my dead body she'd do that. That was, in those days, it really didn't pay well, and it was very tiring. You know, you were on your feet all day long, and we had concrete floors, you know, very hard on your legs and that type of thing.
Did you do all the whole process from start to finish on your own? I mean, you know, washing the hair and so forth?
Oh, yeah. We gave manicures, a few pedicures. We never went into what they go into today.
Right.
We even as long as I had the shop, we hadn't even started on the artificial nails or any of that. That all came later. And when I left there, I moved to the shop across Bonfiles in that little shopping center there. And while I was there, they started doing nails. Betty Knowles owned that shop. And she started out actually across Natural Bridge
Mm-hmm.
over there, and then she moved over to the other shopping center. And that's where, before that was built, is where we started the fireworks in Bridgeton.
Oh,
The fireworks were originally my husband's idea,
really?
and the shopping center paid for them for quite a few years.
So the merchants all pitched in?
And he and Vince Lichtenhaus from IGA actually set off all the fireworks the first few years. And
Did the people all bring their lawn chairs and sit around?
oh yeah, they sat on the parking lot because, of course, it was just across Bondfield from the shopping center. And so they brought all their stuff and sat on the parking lot and shot them off.
Was the post office located there early on?
No,
It came,
no. They, filling station was one of the early ones there, and then the little steakhouse, Steak and Ale was there, and that changed several times through all of that.
Now, across the street is a long strip shopping center
Mm-hmm.
where different things have been in. Is that called Carrollton Oaks, maybe?
I don't think so. Carrollton Oaks is part of the Carrollton subdivision.
Right. I
But
could
it
have my
wasn't-
name wrong, but the shopping center itself,
I know what you're.
there used to be a license office in there, and Greta's Donuts used to be there.
Yeah, yeah. I think isn't there still one of the bars there that used to be there? I believe my son told me that was one of the few things that survived over there.
There's a car parts
Yeah,
place in
see,
there.
That wasn't there then.
Gene Love TV is over there now. Weren't they near the Telshers earlier? Between the grocery store and Telshers?
They might have been. The grocery store originally was at the other end of the shopping center, not where Schnucks was.
Oh,
Like where the bowling alley is?
Between the bowling alley, between the beauty shop and the bowling alley. At the very end, and I don't know what actually went there, I don't remember when they left. And that was owned by the Lichtenhaus family. And he had 3 sons, I think, that worked there. And then when Snooks came in, it was just more competition than they could handle, and IGA finally left.
I see. Yeah,
But IGA was the original grocery store in the shopping center there.
that's true. Well, it was Joe Bettendorf or JB,
Mm-hmm.
and Schnucks bought it from
Right,
him,
right,
Joe Bettendorf.
right.
And now in 2011, it's a Hindu temple.
Yes, that's what my son was telling me.
Yes, and then right next to that is the new government center, the city hall.
Yeah.
That's right
I was
there.
surprised they moved that down because that wasn't that old a building.
Oh, well, that was airport buyout.
Oh, like
Yes.
everything else that messed up Bridgeton.
Yes, unfortunately, and it's very unfortunate for our city that so many people were literally forced to
Oh,
move.
yes.
Were you in the buyout?
No, I moved before that. However, the buyout affected my house because like I say, I moved out here to be near my brother to help with my mother. And that was about 2 years before the buyout actually got close enough to my street. Originally, they said it would never be bought out. That those streets, that Phelps and Rawls and Sangamon wouldn't, but they eventually were. But the down the street from me, the same house that I had, only I had added on a sunroom and a hot tub and a back room, playroom for the kids, because of course there was no basement. Sold for a great deal more than mine in a matter of about 25,000 more just a year before, because the buyout was then named, and our values dropped tremendously until they actually started buying out. I know quite a few people that had that were transferred and this kind of thing. But then when the buyout actually worked out, people, some did okay and some said they didn't. You know, it was hard to say then. But no, I actually sold my house myself.
Well, let's talk about where you are right now. We are in Warrenton, is that right?
You're right.
And how did you say you came by moving from Carrollton to Warrenton?
My brother moved from New York to Warrenton. He and I looked many places, and he finally found the house next door here. And that's why I moved here. His house, then this was a vacant lot. And I built, that was in 92. I lived in Carrollton until August of 92.
You said your husband died.
Yes,
And then were you by yourself during that time?
yes, for the 10 years then. And then I remarried, and he died in 74. I remarried in 84. And
What was his name, your second husband?
Thomas Jarvis.
And
My first one was George Kramer.
where and how did you meet George Kramer?
Met him in a little restaurant called The Greeks in Richmond Heights, where we both transferred streetcars going to high school.
Is that right?
He went to CBC, and he would catch the city limits and go this way, and I would catch the Forest Park and go that way. I lived on the Cleat at the time in the city, and we met there, and we dated 6 years before we got married, through high school and then a little bit of his college, and then we were married 21 years.
Where were you
He
married?
passed at St. Louis Cathedral.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then you moved to Florissant?
Actually, we moved to South St. Louis first. We lived there 3 years on Bates.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine's uncle owned the place, and they moved in upstairs when they got married. It was actually our best friends. And then the people downstairs had moved out. They got married a year before we did. And then 3 years later, we moved to Florissant. And I lived there then till I moved to Bridgeton in 60. We were married in 53. So we lived 3 years, South St. Louis, 3 years in Florissant.
Did you always drive?
Pretty much so, yeah. My husband taught me to drive when we were dating. We didn't have a car as a family for a long time. And he had bought a little rattletrap, and he taught me to drive out in Forest Park. Made a few wild turns, almost went across the lawn of the art museum at one point.
Why did he choose Forest Park to teach you to drive?
Probably because wasn't that much traffic there during the days. And,
That's where everybody took their kids to learn how to drive.
Pardon?
That's where everybody took their kids to learn how to drive, because there was no traffic.
Yeah, that was a popular activity.
Yeah.
I've heard many people talk about that.
Yeah.
And you had nothing to get in your way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Lila's brother is also here with us and helping us with a few memories as well. And I think what's important is for people in generations to come to know how people got around, maybe what kind of vehicles they drove, if they had access to a vehicle.
As a family, we didn't have a car. Of course, the Forest Park streetcar ran practically right in front of our house. And we could go all the way downtown on it. We did a lot of things on Grand Avenue with the Fox and went to all the movie houses there and such. The Arcade Aerodome was our big movie thing, and my brothers snuck in there most of the time, climbed over the fence to get in. It was one of the outdoor ones that they just set up folding chairs for, and I think it cost us 10 cents to get in, didn't it, Rich? And
I never paid, I don't know.
The truth comes out.
Yeah, I had 3 brothers, and like I say, they did most of the time. They snuck in there, as did a lot of the boys. The girls would go there and save a seat for the boyfriend next to them, and they'd sneak in.
Knowing they would be coming.
Yeah, right. And that was quite fun. But my oldest brother bought the first car we had. It was a Nash. And we used to go up to my grandparents in Nebraska for Christmas every year. And one year, Richard rode on the hood of the car for a little while because
Rode on the hood.
well, it was snowing so bad we couldn't see, and we couldn't see the road. And so he sat on the hood of the car and told my brother which way to go to
He was
stay
the
on
navigator.
to stay on the road. And we had most of the time we
Wasn't that
had
kind of dangerous sitting on a?
Oh, yeah, but of course we didn't have the traffic then. There were no interstates then. That, was long before all of that, so they were mostly country roads. And in that respect, they weren't as dangerous, but they weren't paved as well and marked as well, And we went up there every year at Christmas, and then in August for my grandparents' wedding anniversary, we always went up. We came home one August from there in the Nash, and the heater wouldn't turn off. And that was really bad.
Was there a fire?
Hot day in August, and
Yeah.
just drove home with the heater blaring,
Oh,
And but that was the first car we had. And then George bought a car when we were dating, and we had that until we got married. And then first year we were married, we bought a Bel Air Chevrolet, and he was drafted shortly after we were married. He was going to med school, or pre-med I should say. He was taking that in college, and decided not to take a deferment. And so we were married in October, and he was drafted in April. And that October we bought a car. And
So he was drafted for Korea then?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Did he actually go overseas?
No. He actually started then with computers and was in Indianapolis for a while, and then ended up in Fort Meade, Maryland at their big computer.
Did you go there with him?
No, I stayed here because at that time he was planning on coming home and going to med school. So I was saving the money for med school, and he went to, he had a cousin or second cousin or somebody that was a doctor at one of the hospitals in Washington, D.C., and he went there a couple of times to watch things, and found out every time he saw an operation he fainted. And he ended up so bad that even when the kids cut their hand, the sight of blood, he fainted. Needless to say, he never went to med school.
Yeah.
No.
And so then he went into computers.
I see.
And
So at Fort Meade, did he work for the NSA?
yeah. So he enjoyed that quite a bit.
I bet.
But you say when you moved to Carrollton on Phelps, It sounded like he was fairly active in the community. You said that he organized the fireworks display for 4th of July.
Right.
Did he do any other?
He was very active in the little theater group.
And where and what was that all about?
They gave lots of plays. In fact, I had all the handbills. I gave them to my kids a couple of years ago. I don't know if they still have them or not. I was looking through things, you know, trying to get rid of some things, which I did this year again when I started taking chemo and knew that, you know, it was eventually terminal because they can't cure the liver one. I started going through things and giving some of the kids things. And so I'll have to look and see if they have any of the handbills. We could have them copied. But he acted in a lot of the plays, and then they started directing them. And they met at the Carrollton Club and gave most of the plays on the parking lot.
Really?
At the Carrollton Club. They actually did a couple of melodramas,
Oh,
but most of them were very serious plays.
well, did he just recruit people, or did people come forward
Actually,
and want to be?
the little theater group started before he joined. He just enlarged it and became more active in it.
What year would you say this was? What years, I should say?
About probably about 4 or 5 years after we moved there. I would know more if I could see the handbills.
Maybe in the 60s, you think?
Yeah, in the it would have been in the 60s, because like I say, he died in 74. And we moved out there in 60, so it was, I don't know, 3 or 4 years after we moved there that he first joined it. And there was a man, I don't remember his name, that lived down the street, that was very eccentric, and he's the one that started it. And it got to be quite large. Trying to think of the name. My son could tell you, because her son lives across the street from her now. She used to work in the bakery at the IGA. She was extremely active in it, and her husband and the Rodegas were, and quite a few others. But they probably put on about 15 plays or so while George was active in it.
And did they charge people money for seeing him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't even remember what it was. Couldn't have been very much, but yeah, they did, and they got.
Did you share this enthusiasm for the theater?
Enjoyed watching him. I didn't want to be active in it. I was never as outgoing as George. He was very, very outgoing.
What about your children? Were they ever involved in them?
No, they weren't. My children were very active in the holiday things as little children. They had no choice. They were told to in the shopping center, like, you know, we used to have an Easter Bunny costume, and my children dressed up as the Easter Bunny and handed out candy in the shopping center, and they dressed up as elves at Christmas and went along the shopping center and did that. We had an art show at the shopping center 2 different years.
No, what type of an art show?
Just anybody who wanted to put their pictures out, and we had an artist, his name was Richard Long, came from Kirkwood and judged the art show. And they were just all sitting out on the sidewalk, you know, along the shops. And we did that 2 years. I don't remember too much else that we did out of the way. Most of them were repeated the same things, like the fireworks every year. And we did, when the bowling alley opened, we formed a bowling team of 1 member from each business there to get the bowling alley going. And
Where was your mother living during the time when she was working at the beauty shop?
when we lived in Brittany Circle, we had bought a duplex, and Mother lived in the other side of the duplex with me. then a year after I moved over to Phelps, my brother Richard bought a house catty-cornered from us, and Mother moved there, so she lived there, so we all lived very close. We could walk to the shop if we needed to. I always drove because I would take my children to school and drop them off, and then come back, and then I'd go pick them up. I drove 100 miles round trip to take the kids to school and back all the time, and I usually went to Mount Providence, dropped Ken off, drove to Sacred Heart and dropped Kathy off, and came back and crossed that old bridge to St. Charles 4 times a day.
Now, when you're talking the old bridge, what do you remember of the old bridge?
Mostly just how scared everybody was of it, and it didn't bother me, fortunately, at all. But some of Kathy's little friends would hide their eyes when we crossed it. And I picked up a couple of the people in Carrollton who had daughters that went there a time or two, and one of them, I can't even remember her name.
There was a family named Corrigan that had about 5 girls. Did you know of them?
No.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with that name.
All right. Well, the youngest daughter, Candy, was my daughter's age, and but I know she had like 5 girls, and I believe they also went to that school.
Oh, did they?
I think so. Where did you go to church while you lived in Carrollton?
St. Lawrence.
You did.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell us about St. Lawrence? You know St. Lawrence isn't there anymore.
Yeah, I know. Nothing is hardly there anymore. Father Holland was pastor most of the time when I was there. When the new priest came, and I don't remember his name, I never really saw eye to eye with him. So we didn't go there then. We started going to the church next to Sacred Heart over in St. Charles. But Father Holland was just absolutely wonderful. My son's children went there until the school closed.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, and they are now at the one in
Maryland Heights.
in Bridgeton there that merged.
Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Yes.
They changed the name,
Right.
And but they're out of there now. The youngest one is at Incarnate Word, and she's a senior this year.
How many grandchildren do you have?
I have 4.
2
My
from
da-
each?
2 from each. Each have a boy and a girl.
That's nice.
So, and the ones in Indiana, they lived in Milwaukee when my grandson was born, but they've lived in Indiana since he was 5 in Valpo. So they grew up there and went to school there.
Now, your son, Ken,
Mm-hmm.
does he still live in Bridgeton?
Yeah, he lives in Boston Farms.
Perhaps we can talk to him in the near future as well.
I thought you had.
Not really, just in passing,
Oh.
but not really an interview.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, he is, still goes to most of the meetings, and he's at the council and thing like that. And he was very, very active in St. Lawrence, and he's still pretty active at Holy Spirit. Not quite as much this year because he kind of got away from a little when his children got out of there. But he always worked the fish fries and all those kind of things there. And his wife grew up on Bonfalls,
Oh.
and actually they met in South St. Louis. They didn't meet in Carrollton, which you would have thought, but they met at a party in South St. Louis. And
How old is your son?
my son would be, let's see, Kathy was 56 the 5th of October, and he's going to be then 55 next April. He's 18 months younger than her.
Okay.
So they're in their 50s. My oldest grandson's 27. Then I have my daughters are the oldest. Matthew's 27, Melissa is 23. Then Kenny has a son, Kenneth, and he is, I guess he was just 23, too. They're just 8 months apart. And then Nicole is 17. So that's where the children range.
I see.
And
Well, you have a beautiful place here in Warrenton.
I enjoy this.
That's wonderful.
It's been real nice. I've been here 19 years. And like I say, it was really, really fun when I could have all my flower beds in my gardens, and it's just too much work now.
Yeah, outdoor work is fun, and then it gets to be a
Yeah.
chore, doesn't it? Especially as hot as it was this summer for us.
Yes, well, this summer I did absolutely nothing. But
Now, your
Between
second
the heat and-
husband was named Jarvis,
mm-hmm.
and how did you meet him?
My first husband and I were quite the dancers, and we belonged to several dance clubs, square dance clubs and ballroom dancing clubs. And I went to a dance with some friends of mine after George died about, I guess he'd been dead about a year, and they kept saying, well, you really ought to still come to the dances. And I said, well, I feel kind of funny because the other girls' husbands have to, not
Yeah.
dance with them. And the one girl broke her leg. And she said, well, you have to come now, because she said he has no one to dance with. So I went that night, and that's where I met Tom Jarvis.
Had he been married before?
Yes, he was from Springfield, Missouri, and was working up here, and he has a son who I still see quite a bit of, and have 3 step-grandchildren there, and 2 great grandchildren, 2 step.
Did he then live with you in Carrollton on Phelps?
Yeah. We were married in the house there, and then he lived there, and he died there.
I see. What activities did your 2 children, do you remember, do living in Carrollton, Bridgeton specifically? Did they swim up at the community center, or did they mostly have the Carrollton pool?
Mostly they swam at Brittany Acres,
Oh, I'm sorry.
because having owned that there, the lifeguard there taught my 2 children to swim, and we still owned it for most of the time we lived there. I think I sold it after my husband died, and it was just less crowded, and said Ken finally went down to Carrollton some. My husband was very active in the Little League. In fact, he was commissioner a couple of years, and Ken played all the Little League sports. Kathy was never into those much. Kathy was very active in sing-out groups, and the sing-out North men up at Holy Family Seminary on Midland, which now I understand has been given to the city of Overland.
Mm.
And my son still goes there and eats sludge once in a while, and he and his son went up fishing the other day. It's a beautiful campus there, very, very pretty. And so Kathy was so active in that, she really didn't do much else. Kenny played hockey, and George, of course, coached all of the different teams that he was on.
Was your husband George ever alderman or any political office in Bridgeton?
No, he wasn't. No, he was very active in the shopping center things, but that was basically the only thing that he did there, besides a little theater group and such. But,
Were you friendly with Mrs. Telsher, being a shop owner neighbor?
oh yes, very much. Yeah, in fact, I talked to her not too long ago, and she heard that I had cancer and she'd gotten over some, so she called and we talked, and she sent me a She sells real estate now, and she sent me a calendar of the Cardinals things with, and I looked at that and I thought, boy, that picture doesn't look anything like her. Of course, it's very small and she's got a hat on, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I have it on the refrigerator, and but then I don't look anything like I did then either, I'm sure. So, you know, quite a lot of time has passed, and
About 10 minutes.
Is there anything else that you just thinking about living, especially while you were living in Carrollton and owning the beauty shop, and just thinking about the different shops there or the people that came in that you would like to share with us?
I remember the name now of the man that owned the little gift shop next door was Arnold, Mr. Arnold. And like I say, he was quite a character. And his wife was very, very docile, very, very sweet and quiet person. And of course, we all enjoyed the closet so much, the clothes place there that Betty Dean ran. She had lovely, lovely clothes, very, very exclusive.
Now, where exactly was the closet situated in that?
It
Area.
was in the, you know, IGA came out and then went back, the building, and the shopping center went here, and she was in the very last little store there right before the IGA. And it was very, very exclusive, very, very nice clothes, and I missed it terribly after she died. It was really, really thing. And but I think most of our activities there were either with the church or with the little theater group, because he was so tied up in that. George played golf a lot, but mostly with Brown Group's bunch. There were quite a few guys that lived in there that worked for Brown Group.
Is that right?
Rotogas did. They moved to Florida after they sold their house, and they were extremely active in the little theater group. Nancy was very, very much the actress, and enjoyed it. And but I don't remember too many of the names of the people in
That's
the
all
little
right.
theater group.
That's all right. That's fine. How long did your mother work with you in the shop in Carrollton?
She worked with me until after we sold it. She also moved with me over to work for Betty Knowles for several years. And then when she retired, she did a lot of babysitting for people. And I worked over there 3 days, then opened a shop down in a retirement home for teachers downtown, Heritage House.
Is that right?
And I worked there for 16 years.
Wow.
On and off both. I was actually worked as a hairdresser 48 years, and I retired at 70.
Wow.
And so
How did you come by doing that, working at a retirement home for teachers?
one of my customers in Carrollton became the manager of the retirement home downtown, and she wanted to get a beauty shop in down there, and tried to talk me into it for about 4 years before I finally decided to do it, because that was a little bit of a truck to go down.
Yes.
But like I say, I only did it, 3 days a week, and then 2. Actually, Mother worked there the first year 1 day, and I worked 2. And then when she quit, I took 3 days, and then I cut it down to 2. What we did was we rented a small 1-bedroom apartment there,
Oh.
and we put the beauty shop in there.
Oh.
So I had the 2 rooms, and at the end, after I moved out here, I got a rollaway bed and put in there, and I put my 2 days together and stayed down there, because from going from Warrington it was off of Jefferson, so it was part of our drive down and back.
Well, that's interesting. That's very
And,
interesting.
I enjoyed that. It was very different. You know, some of the little old ladies were getting senile. One used to come down quite often and pound on the door at 5:30 in the morning and want to know why I wasn't up and ready for her appointment. And a lot of them would come down and just sit there and visit with each other, you know.
Like a little
There-
social
yeah.
hour.
And I worked by myself, and Mother did too. We didn't have anybody else there, but I did have 2 stations. And I had 3 dryers, and then we had the other room. Actually, I taught crafts down there to them for about 2 or 3 years. One evening when I started staying overnight there, I'd do that for a while.
And you said when we first came today to your house that you've done painting and a doll collector.
I started out and did ceramics like most people, you know, have started, and used to. There's not many ceramics around today. The stores are not many ceramic shops. My ceramic teacher talked me into going to classes with her for oil painting, and I did a little of that, mostly very small things. Then I met a lady through that taught canvas paintings, and that's when in fact, I painted that picture up there with her.
Beautiful. We'll
And,
have to have a picture of that.
I have probably about 50 paintings
Oh, my.
downstairs stacked underneath things. My kids' houses are full. And from there I went to doing portraits. I did all my grandchildren's several times. And my favorite one is the picture in back there in the sepia tone of my son and my grandson. And down in, you know, Lake of the Ozarks,
Yes.
like a lot of them took. Then I started furniture art, and I did quite a bit of that. This is one of the pieces. The sleigh behind you is one of them. And then I went back to, I had done a little bit of China painting for a few months, and got off when I was doing it with Dolores, and I got off the track with it when I started the oil painting, the portraits. And then about 9 years ago, I went back to China painting, and that has just absorbed me. I am just wild about the raised pasted gold. I have done some very, very unusual paintings of the religious icons and done the raised pasted gold work around them. I have them in the living room. In fact, I took them out of the room some of them were in the other day to show them to someone, so they're all still just sitting in the living room leaning up against things. And but I have done so much that the house is just overloaded. Both my children's houses are overloaded. I probably have about 500 pieces of China painting in the basement that are just stacked. But I still enjoy it.
Well,
So
that's wonderful.
when my hands
Or busy.
are busy, I'm busy, and when I'm able to do it now, there are times I can't use my hands too well, but when I can, I still paint quite a bit.
Well, we certainly thank you for letting us come out today and visiting with you and learning about you. And we hope that if you come into Bridgeton and you would like to go through the Paint Gentry house, we can give you a tour through that or
Okay,
just see what's going on in Bridgeton.
Yeah, I was there quite a few years ago. Ken keeps me up on the politics a little bit because he goes to the meetings most of the time and such. But I just haven't been in there as much the last year. I don't drive much now. Rich runs me to my doctor's appointments and all that kind of stuff. And Ken comes out here pretty often.
Well,
Tries.
we'll be sure we also talk to your son, Ken.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, you're quite welcome.
Yes, thank you.